So everything's opposite.
I got you, man.
What's going on, guys that are just now tuning in? I'm here at Kentucky Lake Outdoors, TackleFreaks.com, again on Thursday night. This is my buddy Matt Bryan from All Pro Bass. He was on the show last fall, like a week after he won a brand new, was it Nitro, on Kentucky Lake, throwing a rattle trap. But he's also one of the best springtime fishermen on Kentucky Lake. And again, he throws a rattle trap a lot. So I've got some cool things to bring you tonight. We're going to pick Matt's brain, go over his setup, what he likes in the spring, go over colors and some different baits. But before I get to that, we're also going to talk a little bit about navigating some rough water. We've had some really bad conditions here on Kentucky Lake. Hey, what's up, Kevin? Hey, Bobby, what's up, buddy? What's going on, Cody? Make sure you do us a favor. Go ahead and hit the like button, share this video. I know Bass Mafia's got a video going tonight at the same time. We're not trying to take away, but this has always been my time. But anyway, just had an FLW college event here on Kentucky Lake. Winds were absolutely horrible. We did have some equipment torn up, some guys that had some issues. And I'm going to talk a little bit about this to Matt because we have fished this lake for what? You fished it for 30 years? 20. And I fished it for 20 years and probably about 15 out of a boat. A lot of it with Matt. And we've seen some bad conditions. So if you're one of these college guys, if you've never been to Kentucky Lake, what are some things you need to know before you go out there in these bad conditions? Number one is you just can't go run out in the middle of the lake.
You cannot run out in the middle of the lake. First thing you need to do is you need to understand the wind directions, what direction the wind's blowing from on any given day. And, you know, years ago it was a lot harder because you didn't have the weather apps on your phone to know a time frame of when it was going to start blowing and what direction it was going to blow from. Kentucky Lake runs basically north to south. If it's an east wind, if it's going to be a northeast wind, you want to hug the east bank. If it's going to be on a west wind, whether it's south or northwest wind, 90% of the time it has a west tint to it, just the way our weather flows. And just like this week, it'd be two totally different lakes. The east side of the lake and the middle of the lake compared to hugging the west bank.
I mean, it's like Lake Erie.
Yeah, you could run the west bank, especially the water's up high enough that you don't have to worry about hitting anything as long as you stay in the lake itself.
Correct.
You could run from Kentucky Dam to Paris and never be in any really truly rough waters unless you're having to go out in the middle to go through a bridge or something like that. But main thing is know the lake or the body of water, especially with Kentucky and Barkley Lakes. One side of the lake's going to be totally different than the other, and you can get bad weather anywhere. As far as the Ohio River gets, in my opinion, as bad, if not worse, than Kentucky Lake lots of times, from Paducah all the way up towards Golconda. It gets unbelievably bad, and there's no way to get out of it because of the way it runs. Most times on Kentucky Lake, you can run one side or the other and get to where you're going.
Yeah, and the only time is like if it's just a dead south or dead north. But, you know, the lake does bend, and there's some areas to get out of it. And one trick I was always told is, man, when it's running straight down the lake, hug the bank line, go in the bays and cut in and out. You know, I see a lot of guys say slow down. The only problem with that, there's a fine line between not going anywhere and, you know, going fast. You do have to slow down, watch your speed, but a lot of these boats now, if you don't get that nose up, that's when you're going to spear them, and you can't just come to a dead stop.
Well, the big thing is, if you're going to have a 25, 30 mile an hour north or south wind, don't run far.
Correct.
I mean, I've cost myself 2 or 3 tournaments that I felt like I had a chance to win by breaking something or trying to make a long run, and it's not worth it. You can have, the lakes are huge, and you don't have to run to New Johnsonville to catch fish, or if you're at Paris, you don't have to run to Barkley and catch fish. You can catch fish where you are, and a lot of times you can win a tournament and not have to go too far.
Yeah, look at Jordan Lee in the Classic. Boat broke down. He fished one area, and he even admitted I probably wouldn't even stay there if my motor would work, and he sacked up some janks on one spot. And that comes with the experience. I fished with Matt enough to know, and trust me, stuff's gone wrong. And instead of making these long hauls, we just fish what we can, and a lot of times you'll find yourself really picking apart an area a whole lot better than you ever would have. If
I won a boat this fall, and I never made it past Duncan.
Yeah.
So, I mean, and I was wanting to go to Paris, but there was I come through the canal, and I heard a sheep out there, and and then it had a lot of west coming in, and then the east side was really bad, and that's why I was wanting to fish, was in the middle and the east. And when it gets like that, you can beat yourself to death for an hour and a half, 2 hours to get there, and hopefully be able to hold on your fish, or you can do something different. I just decided to do something different and get out of the wind.
Yeah, and sometimes doing something different wins you a bass boat.
It does.
But
it's good to have a backup plan. I used to, when I was young, I would just swing for the fence and I would go for it. But now I always try, and like the tournament preps that I do, a lot of people will hire me to take them and teach them tournament prep. I try to have something set up for them for a north wind, a south wind, a northeast wind. You hardly ever get a southeast wind, but you can get a northwest wind or a southwest wind. And then you got to have something that, for one, that you can get to, and for two, that you can actually fish. If you got a 25-mile-an-hour northwest wind or a southwest wind, it's really hard to fish anything on the east side of the lake, on the main lake, without getting in the bays. And if you spend all your time, and you might have the best pattern in the world, but there's 5-foot rollers rolling onto the place that you're wanting to fish, you're not fishing. You
Correct.
Just can't.
You know, I hate to say it, and I use this a lot. Bass fishing is a lot like deer hunting. You've got to prepare for multiple winds. If you want to kill a big deer, if you just hunt a west wind, you're missing a lot of opportunities. Same deal. They pattern the same. They like to be close to structure. They don't like being out in the open unless they're feeding or breeding, is all I like to say. And you've got to be prepared. And that doesn't mean just for the wind. Always wear your life jacket. I'm guilty of not doing it. Nobody that fishes out of a boat 100% has always wore their life jacket. If you have, props to. But I'm definitely guilty of not wearing the life jacket or not hooking up the kill switch. But anytime you're going to have any kind of tournament situation, always wear your life jacket, kill switch, even if you're just idling across the bay. It's not always you got to be worried about. It could be that guy on the jet ski there. It could be the other boat that doesn't see you. So always keep that in mind. Anything else you want to add to that, Matt?
Well, what's happening is I've been fishing tournaments basically 20 years nonstop in this area and other places. And in the last couple years, you're starting to see tournaments get canceled, and it's tough on the fishermen. And I understand why people are canceling the tournaments, because of liability issues and people can get hurt. But also, unless there's a weather advisory or a Coast Guard's got something out, it's safe enough to fish if people use common sense. And it's bad because a lot of people have boats that don't understand how to do it. And driving in rough water and navigating in rough water is a lot different than running out across the lake at 100 miles an hour. Yeah. And there's a lot more wrecks and stuff in boats. Now people say, well, 20 years ago there wasn't as many wrecks, and that people had 18-foot boats with 150s on them. Well, for one, if it's going to be a 25-mile-an-hour wind, that boat didn't have enough gas to drive to New Johnsonville from the dam without stopping twice, and you're not going to do it when it's rough. So, and it's just like on any of the big waters, just not here. Well, now we have 20-foot boats that run 70, 75, 80 miles an hour, and we feel like we can just take off and go. So it's using a lot of common sense is the main thing that people have to worry about, and people get kind of sue happy, so they want to sue somebody else for their own negligence. So that's the reason why we don't have as many tournaments. When we want them to be, anyway.
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, you know, in this day and age, we just can't let everybody go shotgun blast like the 71 Classic that Bill Dance won. It's, you know, people got killed, and that's why there's not a lot of shotgun starts anymore with how powered the boats are and everything. Hey, Brittany, tell Brooks I said hello. Miss him. So let's go ahead and get into rattle traps, man. This is your thing, and before we get started real quick, I got to show you some new colors I'm really excited about. So this is a new color from Rattletrap, and I love it. This is called Purple Shad. These are all loaded on TackleFreaks.com right now. This is Purple Shad. That'll be a killer this fall. What do you think?
Yeah, that'll be really good.
And then this is a new color. This will be good for this springtime. We'll have Matt talk about these spring colors here in just a second. This is Pumpkin Crawl. Basically like your pumpkin seed. It's got some green flake in this. This is They call this Lake Fork Zombie. So a chrome and blue with a little red and these little white bars on there. I don't know if the white bars make any bit of difference, but I do like that chrome back or blue back. This color here this is very similar. This is American Shad. This is kind of going to be your gizzard threadfin imitator. And then this is a new exclusive color. This is called Retro Craw from Rattletrap, and I got to take a picture and put these online tomorrow. These are going to fly off the shelves. And we got two other colors coming from Rattletrap. We've got a black and white one and a chartreuse root beer that's exclusive to Tackle Freaks. Now, Matt, you may not throw all these colors. Of course, they're new. But tell me about your Rattletrap fishing. What colors do you like? Give me your basic setup and go from there. When are you going to throw a Bill Lewis Rattletrap? I know this one right here is one of your favorites in the spring on Kentucky Lake. This is root beer. When are you going to throw root beer versus chrome and blue or chartreuse and purple or a red?
You kind of have to let the fish let you know what to throw. I see it all the time that somebody, this happened to me last year. A good friend of mine come in, he's like, I absolutely killed him today on a purple and chartreuse. I mean, he was like, he wanted to buy every purple and chartreuse bait he could find. He felt like that was what you had to be throwing.
Was that me?
It might have been you or somebody else. Well, it wasn't you because of what I'm going to say. You don't want it to be you.
Okay.
Well, it turns around, comes tournament day. Well, the day he caught him, it was cloudy. And in the area he was fishing, the wind was blowing out of the west, and it was dirtying up the water. Well, he went back to that same area. The wind direction had changed, and it was bluebird skies. And he's still throwing the same exact color because he had confidence in it. And when it comes to rattletrap fishing, if you're fishing by yourself in a Pro-Am event, you need to have, I normally have 3 rattletrap rods on my deck of my boat. And I will have 3 totally different colors, and I might have a Strike King or a 6 Sense or something else in there to mix it up throughout the day. I always will have a red on there of some sort, something like that, or you know, one of these booyahs, something that's got some red and orange in it. And I love this one too. Got your red and your oranges.
I'll hold the baits. So this is now this is a 2-tap. We'll get into the knocking versus the rattle here in a minute too.
But you want to, when it's cloudy and the water's dirty, you may want a brighter color like your chartreuse. And the dirtier the water, the darker and the darker reds and with the brighter orange bellies or the chartreuses are gonna work better. If the wind's blowing on that bank and the water's muddied up on that flat or what have you, that's when you want to go to your brighter, your chartreuses, or even like this dude right here has got
That's bright.
It's bright. Now, if you're on a bank that doesn't have a lot of wind and the water is fairly clear and it's calm, it's probably not going to be a good idea to throw the brightest color bait you got. Mm-hmm. Well, anyways, back to that story. The next day comes in. He comes up and he's just got his head down and he goes, how did you catch him today? I was like, a rattle trap. He's like, I threw one all day long and I caught 1 fish. And I went back to the area where I felt like the fish were. Well, he probably was still around the fish. And from day to day, the colors can make a huge difference in my personal opinion. I know that if it's a sunny day, I might want to throw something that has a lot of reflection to it, like your chrome and blue.
Sunny chrome.
Yeah, chrome and blue is a great thing to throw. Or even your root beer or something that's got some white in it, something like that. And I always tell everybody, if you're lost and you don't have a lot of confidence in a rattle trap, pick up something that's either in the spring got some orange belly and a light colored side and a dark back. Whether it's a root beer or one of these, like that little dude right there, would be a killer showing that one.
Yeah, that's the Jackal TN70. That color is
it's deadly looking color.
Yeah, it's just brown crawl, but it looks good.
Keep it simple until you get some confidence. But honestly, you can mix it up throughout the day and with the conditions. You can't just get confidence in one color and think, I'm going to go throw chartreuse and purple and that's how I'm going to catch them. Because just because it worked yesterday doesn't mean it's going to work today. And you have to kind of learn, and I can help you here by telling you, On the clear days, bright sunshiny days, I'm not throwing chartreuse unless the water's super, super muddy. And if it's super, super muddy, I'm going to throw something with a lot of flash in it because you get that reaction bite. But on your more overcast or rainy days, that's when I like to come with your brighter colors.
And it's kind of like jerkbait fishing.
Exactly like jerkbait fishing, except you're fishing shallower and dirtier water.
We're going to answer a few questions real quick, and then I'll get into breaking some of these baits down. Here we go. Someone asked me if I can compare 6-cent quake and the LV500. Yes, I will, William, if you'll stay tuned. I'll do that later. I'm not an experienced trap thrower. What size trap and color do you recommend for fishing deep, clear, rocky lakes like Lake Travis in Texas? Well, Matt will go over his rod and reel setup right now, and the other question is fluoro or braid with our current watercolor.
I am, first of all, I don't throw braid unless I'm in heavy grass. I use 15 or 17 pound, and I actually use some of the Braze X.
Cigar Braze X.
People say, well, that's what we use for flipping or for our, why aren't you using Invis X or something like that? If you're fishing shallow crankbaits, whether it's a square bill or a rattle trap or even a spinner bait, you're bouncing off rocks, mussels, shells. You want to spend a little extra money and get that better line because you're not, and everything's going to be bumping off of all kinds of stuff. When it comes to rods, I do it a little bit different. So many times somebody gets in my boat and they come in there and they're throwing a rattle trap and they come in there with a little flimsy 6.6 cranking rod, a little medium action, extremely fast, and that's not going to work properly. Yeah. For one, you can't. It's not going to load up and it's not going to cast. I don't use particularly this exact rod, but I use one a whole lot like it. I use a 711 medium heavy with a moderate fast action to it. You want something that's got enough tip to give when you cast and when it loads up with that crankbait with the trap. But you want to have enough backbone because if you're throwing a rattle trap, most of the time you're probably coming around stumps, big rocks, brush piles, and you're around cover. And if you got a little flimsy rod, you can't control where that fish is. And if you get a 5, 6, 7 pounder and there's stumps there, you want to turn that fish and bring him to you to get him out into the deeper water away from the crappie beds. And if you've got a little flimsy rod, for one, you're not going to get the hooks buried up in him good, and you can't control that fish at all. And so many people lose fish on lipless crankbaits. I say, I hate throwing a lipless crankbait. And knock on wood, it's probably one of the things I lose the least amount of fish on.
Yeah, but go ahead, Matt.
If you have the right line, the right rod, and I'm a firm believer in having the right hooks. I use the...
Knocking all my stuff over
here. Throwing stuff crazy here. Show them that, Kevin.
KVD triple grips. Almost doesn't get better than this. I recommend these all the time as well, and Matt kind of showed me this deal a few years ago, and I'm a firm believer you change these out on all your rattle traps, which now, we just saw it, the 6th Sense, they put these triple grip hooks on all their stock baits, so that's one less thing you got to do.
Well, and rattle trap comes with the triple grip on it, but that rattle trap, if you'll look, show it up there to them.
Yep.
That has a number 4 hook on it.
So we upgrade to number 2.
Go to number 2s. It used a short shank. They won't get tangled up. You may get hung up a couple more times, but your hookup percentage and bringing that fish to the boat is going to change drastically. I've been using triple grips since they came out, for as long as I can remember. And a few years ago, of course, KVD, he knows more about crankbait fishing than anybody. He came out with this short shank hook, and it widens the gap, and it's a reaction bite when you catch one on a rattle trap, because you're moving that bait. If you're fishing it properly, you're not moving it slow. You're burning that dude, pausing it and stuff like that. And it's a reaction bait, and that bigger bite hook, your hookup ratio will double, if not triple. Like, no offense to what the Strike King comes with them, these little hooks. If you're throwing one straight out of the package with those hooks are sharp, and those hooks are fine for certain baits. But for a lipless crankbait, your hookup percentage and landing that sucker is going to change drastically when you go to a larger hook with a short shank.
Now, you'll get hung up more, but that just means you'll have to go get it. I'm going to backtrack a little bit, Matt. We've got a ton of questions We got some long answers, which is okay. All right. Went over the hooks. What is your favorite way to work a trap back to the boat? That's a great question from Garrett Gensley.
Well, that's going to have to do with where you're putting it, too. A lot of people think that you just randomly go down a bank and cast and reel, cast and reel. If you're working a secondary point or a long flat bank, I don't really throw a rattle trap a lot on a steep bank. I'm going to throw my rattle trap on my sloping banks and on flats with a ditch in them.
That really taper out.
They taper out. And what I like to do is I'll start out first thing burning it. If I don't get bit, I'll burn it halfway to the boat or a quarter way to the boat, quick pause, burn it again, quick pause. And a lot of times what you'll find is on your banks, there's going to be a slope. The fish may be laying right up here when they're really active, right up on the bank. But when you start getting bit halfway to the boat, if you've ever got stuck up on the bank when you watch your trolling motor, and I don't care what body of water you're on, you'll notice this. When you're going up, there's an erosion line. And it may be 6 inches, it may be a foot. A lot of times your big females are sitting there in pre-spawn. They're sitting right there on that little break. It doesn't have to be anything more than 6 or 8 inches or a foot. And that's a lot of times where they do. So what I do is I don't 45 the bank, and I don't get tight to the bank like you would if you was throwing a square bill or something like that. And you can ask Kevin, anybody that's ever fished with me, they have to learn how to cast a long ways. Because I'm going to back off away from that bank to where when I cast, I want it to land right at the water's edge, but I want that to be at the peak of my cast. As far as I can cast and let it land up there, and I'm going to bring it straight back to me. And that way I know that I'm covering that water column down that bank or across that flat. And most of the time, your big females, they're either going to be on your first crank or halfway to the boat because they're going to be on that second with that little break that comes out off of it.
That is a fact, Jack, because I took a whooping out of his boat last year doing that. Yeah. And I had to go get me some new reels. Matt uses the oldest reels. He uses Corrados and Chronarchs that were made when I sold them to him in high school. And he just oils them up and he can cast a mile. So that's another great tip.
That comes back to your rod, too. Yeah. If having that, basically people say, what rod? The rod that you throw your 6XD with
is a great trap rod.
It's a great trap rod because whether it's a ½ ounce or a 3/4 ounce. Now, if you're going down to your 1/4 ounce and your smaller traps, which I do not throw a lot of, people say, what do you do when you're burning across a flat that's 6 inches deep? I just reel faster, hold my rod straight up in there, and I'm throwing a ½ ounce. From 1 foot of water to 4 foot of water, 5 foot of water, I normally will be running a ½ ounce. If I'm fishing a flat that's 3 to 7 foot of water, I'm throwing a 3/4.
Let's go on with some more questions. On a lake with no point, on a lake with no grass, what do you look for? What retrieve? Low to mid 50s water. We just went over that. Awesome. Cast a check and a BFL throwing the LV500. Great bait, Andrew. Fix to talk about it. Catch fish at Douglas and Cherokee when the water temp is 46 on a tramp. I think a lot of people don't throw it in water that cold. And you would be right, Todd.
Cherokee's a great place to throw a trap.
Kentucky's supposed to drop 3 foot the next couple days. How far will those fish pull back, or do they hang tight? I haven't been out there, Nathan. I don't think many of them actually went that far back.
There was fish in the bushes. Some of them will pull right out to the bushes, and some of them will pull all the way back out to the secondary points into the main lake. Some fish never left the main lake, and some fish never left the secondary points. When it jumps up real fast like that, you'll have a few pit fish go to the wood, but a lot of times they're going to hang on the old bake line. It's just where they are.
Randy Flowers says flimsy rods not good for big fish.
100% right, Mr. Flowers.
I don't know who Randy Flowers is, but he is the funniest sumbitch on Facebook I've ever seen.
My new hero.
I don't know why he's on here. I need to get him off because something bad happened. Okay, Gary asked, do you change both hooks or just the rear? I change both.
Both. You can ask my fishing partner one time when he first started fishing with me. We were fishing a tournament. He comes in. I told him to change his hooks, what brand to change. Well, he puts a big hook on the front and a little hook on the bottom. He lost a couple of fish and gave him a little whooping with the rod and explained to him that, hey, you go with the biggest hooks you can put on there. And used to the hooks would get tangled together, but then since KVD came with these short shank hooks, and like if you go to a 3/4, I tell you one thing that was great, especially if you're throwing the Bill Lewis, if you're buying the 3/4s, they already come with number 1 triple grips on them. I literally just take the ones off the They come with number 2s on them.
Yeah.
I'll take the 2s off the 3/4 and throw them on my halves and put 1s on them.
So you really only got to buy number 1 triple grips.
Yeah. If you buy a 3/4 ounce and a 1/2 ounce, you can take the hooks off the 3/4 and put on the half. They're not quite as short a shank as these, but they don't tangle up bad, and it's the same exact hook. It works fine. Works
So that's
perfect.
a great tip unless you come in my store because I can't.
Then you gotta
get
buy
number
more
ones.
hooks.
I don't know why I can't get any number 1 triple grips. Matt comes in every week. Says, hey, you got number 1s?
Put
Let's
those
see.
on your 6XDs too.
Have y'all heard if Booyah is releasing new colors on the 1 and hard knockers this season? Some of the old Excaliburs need to come back. Josh can't say much, but I'd say you got a pretty good guess there. Randy Flowers, have you ever thrown a bull shad? Skip that. Chad Porter's now watching. Hey, Baitman, thanks for getting my package to me so quick. Hey, not a problem, Jim. I appreciate it. Do you use scent on your rattle traps?
No.
Yeah, I don't put any scent on my rattle traps. I do good enough to change the hooks. I like the 1/2 ounce trap, but I have trouble keeping it off the bottom in shallow water. What do you recommend to keep your trap from staying on the bottom? Real fast. Real fast.
Hold your rod up and reel faster.
Chad says you can't cast farther than me. That's where the 7 and 11 rod comes in handy. Let's keep going. I'm trying to catch back up on questions. Dang, Randy. What do you have to do to win the reel? I'll have a giveaway after the show. This is what we're going to give away. Thanks to my friends at Daiwa and Pittman Creek. We got a Daiwa Fuego CT 100 8-to-1 reel. You can use that for flipping whatever. Heck, you can throw a trap if you really want to burn it. And then it's got some J-braid and evergreen crankbait in there. That'll be after the show. Speaking of reel ratio, you throw a 6-6-to-1, correct, Matt?
Yes. On everything.
Brian Head, my good friend at Denali Rods. In what situations do you pump the trap during the retrieve, or do you ever? I'm a big pumper. I like to pump that thing on the way back to the boat.
I mix it up. I'll start on a flat burn because that's how you can cover the most water. The reason why I love a lipless crankbait in a spring or fall, very seldom are you pulling up on a school of fish and catching 10 fish in a row. It's one of the reasons why I do better in the spring and fall than I do some other times of the year, because so many people get stuck on one bank or on one point, and I might hit 50, 60, 70. You know, I will cover as much water as I possibly can, and you might catch 1 or 2, maybe 3 in a spot, and that's almost every lake that I've ever been to in the spring. If you've learned how to fish Kentucky and Barkley, when you go to Old Hickory, when you go to Gunnersville or any of those places, when the fish move up and it's on that type of power fish and bite, it's all the same thing no matter where you are.
Correct.
And as far as pumping it, I pump it in grass, which we don't have a lot of that here anymore. But like if you're coming across a bank and it's like, I do more stopping and going than I do pumping. Now, this is a totally different thing. You can pull out a 1 ounce trap and stroke that dude in the summertime.
This is a good one for that. The LV500 is kind of made for that. You've watched Matt Allen, Tim Little. They don't fish this like Matt's talking about burning it. They fish it like when Matt's talking about you throw it out there, let it hit the bottom.
And you hop it.
And you hop it. Even and Matt whipped my tail like that. Just letting it sit there in short little hops because it's so nose weighted. And when those fish are really lethargic, you can get out in that deeper water, even in the spring, and do that.
In a lot of places you would throw a jerkbait, you can do the same thing.
Correct. Or places guys are dragging football jigs, you can take these big 1 ounce like this right here, or even this big 6-inch stud, which I'll talk about in a minute. It's head weighted, and you can just stroke it real slowly down there. God, that sounded dirty.
Almost like you would a jig in the summer, except not quite as hard.
Correct. Let's keep going here. Thanks for the question. I would love to go fishing with Randy Flowers. Let's see.
That's scary.
Love the duct tape sock. What would baits cost if they came with the changed hardware? Well, my price on Rattletraps is $5.99. That's with Mustad triple grip. So I don't know really how much more they would cost with better hardware.
I don't know why. I give Rattletrap a lot of credit. Their price hasn't gone up hardly any at all, and they used to come with those old chrome hooks on them. Mm-hmm. You know you had a really good angler if you was fishing an ABA or a BFL, and your co-angler gets out there and he pulls out the Rattletrap and it's still got the shiny chrome hooks on it. That's he's fixing to catch a 10.
Yeah. Every time.
Every time, and not lose it. They've done a lot better because they put the right type of hooks on it. I just like a larger hook, and that's just me personally. And there's probably not too many people that throw a rattle trap or a lipless crankbait any more than me. I'll start in February, and I will throw one until they leave the bays.
So what's the earliest water temperature you throw a trap in? I get that all the time. 45 degrees?
40.
40?
Yeah, if it's on a warming trend, especially if you're on the main lake and you're in an area that the lake's starting warm, you got a little current, and not just on Kentucky Lake, on a lot of bodies of water, when the fish will move up. If the fish is in 4 foot of water, 5 foot of water or less, you may not burn it. You may do more of a slow hop or stop and go. Mm-hmm. It's a reaction bite. If you drag it when in front of someone's face and it pauses right in front of him or it takes off right in front of him, he's just going to eat it. That's the reason why that all the different sounds and shapes and stuff like that, does it matter? It probably matters some, but I'm more on the colors and the what weight it is more so than I am the sounds. That's just how I am personally. Because that fish has got to be really, really fast to figure out what it sounds like when it's coming by as fast as you can crank it.
Can he hold a rod and reel show his typical retrieve? Let's see. How to avoid getting your line snagged in the hooks when you pop it off the bottom. That's just going to happen.
Straight up.
Been experimenting with a Thud 80. It's been awesome. Let's see. What spinning setup would you recommend to fish a trap? Not everybody can throw a bait caster.
Well, here's the situation I would tell you. If a person was wanting to learn how to throw a bait caster, there is not a better lure to learn how to throw a bait caster with than a rattle trap.
I would agree with that 100%.
It casts better into the wind, with the wind. If you're trying to learn how to throw a bait caster, if it's got the brakes, you can pop the brakes out, put the wind behind you, and just start throwing a rattle trap. And you could throw one on a spinning reel, but I can tell you right now, I don't have too many of them, unless I'm really finesse fishing, which I try not to do very much.
William asked, do you always throw to the bank, or do you park on the bank and throw deep and bring it back?
No. That's what I was talking about a little bit earlier. When a lot of people think, oh my goodness, they're catching fish on a rattle trap, you'll see people that are just beating the fire out of the banks. Their boats
parallel to it.
They're throwing it a 45, and it's so funny. I fish a lot of the same bays and the same community stuff that everybody else does, and it wasn't too many years ago. Matter of fact, Chad was gone. I was fishing with somebody else, and we pull into a bay, one of the biggest community bays on the lake. And there's boats lying down the bank. But the fish wasn't sitting on the bank. The water had dropped a little bit. We had a little bit of a cold front, and guess what? The fish were sitting halfway out where everybody else's boats was sitting in 5-6 foot of water. They're sitting in the brush in their little crappie piles. Everybody's got stake beds and crappie piles off the bank, trees. Back way out, we're slinging it up there, burning that dude right across the top of the water column, right across the top of the brush piles, and just absolutely obliterating them. Caught 23 or 24 pounds right behind everybody. He's like, people couldn't figure out what he was doing. Nothing fancy, just bringing that bait across the top of the brush piles. And where people mess up a lot, too, is they don't fish the flats in the mouths of the bays or the back of the bays. If you find a flat that's got a 1 foot or a 6-inch ditch here on Barkley, Old Hickory's wonderful with the little ditches in the backs of the bays. Put your boat in that ditch and fan cast. You look like a fool when somebody comes out there. You're sitting right out in the middle of a bay and you're just casting every single direction. But you can... You've been with me. You can wear the fish out in the back of a bay.
Let's see. I don't know. Trying to keep back up with comments, guys. Do you ever load those big 2-ounce traps with JB Weld to stroke them, or is that an East Tennessee deal? I'm gonna think that's an East Tennessee deal.
Yeah.
JB Weld and the Rattle Trap. That's awesome. I wish JB Weld would sponsor me because I'm always tearing shit up.
I might have duct tape on my rod.
James Cornelius, do you recommend using a red hook on your rattle trap? That's a good question.
When red hooks first came out,
I was all about it. I'm not gonna lie.
And I've got friends that just believe in the red hooks. And until they start making a short shank triple grip in the red hook, I'm not putting it on my lipless crankbait, because I will not throw a lipless crankbait without a size up from whatever the bait come with either a 1 or a 2 short shank. I'm not throwing it.
Now do I tell them they make it? We just seen it in the Rattletrap catalog.
Then you need to have them. Then I might
there
try
you go. We're gonna have it. I guarantee Jeff Evans has red hooks on every heart.
Yeah, I stopped by and seen him, his back hook or front hook. He was putting his red gummies on there. I tried to explain to him he wouldn't lose as many fish if he had these babies on there. Because you got to have them.
Jeff the legend. Great guy, though.
He's who taught me how to fish a rattle trap years ago. He's probably one of the best lipless crankbait fishermen there ever has been.
Aaron, never been to Barkley, Kentucky Lake Fishing Tournament in first weekend in May. What bait should I have with me? Bring the kitchen sink.
Because you don't ever know.
Yeah, first week in May, that's going to be... You can throw a rattle trap in May.
Yeah, there's you're going to have pre-spawn, post-spawn. And with this year, I mean, I've never seen in March the water up as high as it is, staying as high as it is, you know. And they say they might even bring it back down. They're not going to bring it back below summer pool. I don't think they're going to bring it down to summer pool and hold it, which is the first time I've ever seen that happen.
Yeah,
but they may change their mind tomorrow, so who knows?
It could be bush fishing all year for all we know.
Yeah.
Let's see. So many people change hooks on everything is what I want. Yeah, I agree. Randy caught this Hep C off a steak. Bad deal. Jesus. All right. Randy's just going to have to get his own show. What's an alternate bait to throw with the trap? So, do you have a follow-up bait? Maybe you're getting in an area, getting a lot of bites?
If I'm getting a lot of bites, I'm going to stick with the rattle trap. Rattle trap catches big fish, period. They catch
Jinx.
They catch really big fish, and there's not another bait that you can cover as much water with. I love a spinnerbait. I love a square bill. But you can't cover as much water. You can't cast them as far, and you can't work them as fast. I love slow rolling a spinnerbait, but I can make 3 to 4 rattle trap casts and cover 4 times as much water as it takes me to do 1 slow roll spinnerbait cast. Now, I'm not saying that I'll throw a rattle trap all day, every day, because obviously some days that's not what it's going to happen. But a lot of time from end of February all the way through April, there's a lot of times you can wear the fish out all over the country on some type of a lipless crankbait.
Yeah, I mean, I'm telling you, those boys in Texas don't ever put that thing down.
Yeah. And like a lot of people think, well, you only throw it in the fall. I pick that sucker up. I like having a 3/4 on in the summertime. A lot of times you start getting on the shallower flats or bars, the fish are active. Burn that sucker out there.
Let's see, do you get on the shallow bars and throw it out deep, fish it up?
Most of the time I don't. If I'm on a bar that's got current, sometimes I'll get downstream and throw upstream. But when I'm throwing a rattle trap, you're covering so much water so fast. You're looking for a reaction bite, and you're wanting to cover as much water and get on as much isolated cover as you possibly can and rip that sucker by it. And in the spring of the year, people say, well, how do you know what part of the bay to fish? Well, every single day, you're not going to know that they're going to be in the back of the bay or the mouth of the bay. It cracks me up, just like the people with the colors. I'm only throwing a purple and chartreuse. Man, I ran to the back of Big Sandy and smacked them. Well, I ran to the back of Sugar, and I was just catching a fire out of them. Well, the next day I go back there, and there's not a fish there. Well, those fish didn't just get up and leave Sugar Bay.
Yeah.
There's still fish in Sugar Bay. They may be on the second point out, the third point out. Or they may be down a long straight bank, but there's a little knob on it. And the thing about it is, once you figure out, you catch more than one fish or two. Kevin's been with me, and I'll be going down a bank. I catch one. I was like, uh-oh. Go down a little bit farther and catch one on the same exact thing. I won't throw it anything else the rest of the day. I'll run all over the lake. I'll run to a bay, make 10 or 15, 20 casts on this just on this certain side of a point.
The pattern within the pattern.
Yeah.
As Rick Clunn would say.
Yeah, the pattern within a pattern. And there's nothing better to figure that out with than a rattle trap, because you can put your trolling motor down, and about any bay on any lake, you can cover that sucker from the mouth to the back in 30 minutes to an hour. I mean, or less, and cover basically every type of water you want with it.
The only problem is that is when you're in the back of his boat and that's happening, you ain't catching shit. Pardon my French. It ain't. Maybe Chad the Hammer Porter can, but I can't. Let's go on here. We're way behind. Hey, thank you, Gary. Gary, I appreciate that, and thanks for coming in the store. Let's see here. Jack Fuller's watching. What's up, Jack? Thanks for assist on that kayak sale today, man. We're moving some kayaks here at Kentucky Lake Outdoors. Jack's want to thank him too for letting me do this every Thursday night. Been filling my orders for me too. He's been doing an awesome job, Jack. Let's see. Have you two ever fished santee? Rattletrap is awesome. If you have not, you're welcome to go fish with me. Paul, I'll take you up on that if I can ever get away from this store, but I've never been there. I may have gotten on late, but what rod length do you prefer? Matt, 7-11.
Yeah, it's anywhere from 7.6 to 8 foot for me. I want a long, medium, heavy rod.
Does Porter ever make your knees hurt for getting the net for him?
No, I've never had that problem. I've seen him with like calluses on his knees. I don't understand what that's for though.
Chris Thompson, great question. What about a Rapala Rattling Rat? I put a video on Facebook about 3 weeks ago. It's on this page. Just scroll down or go to videos where I caught a jant on a Rapala Rattling Rat.
All of your lipless crankbaits, some of them have a little bit different action, a little bit different vibration. I'll be honest with you, I keep it pretty basic. I'll have maybe some Spro, some red-eye shad, and some of this new stuff I haven't got in on yet really. I throw a lot of the old Bill Lewis, and it's all about the color, the retrieve, and where you put it. If you put it in the right place and you reel it in, I think they'll eat the Sixth Sense, they'll eat the Evergreen, the Jackal, the Rattletrap. If you've got the right color and the right retrieve in the right spot. Because when it's a lipless crankbait bite, everybody calls it a rattletrap bite. Everybody comes and, well, I caught him on a rattletrap. Well, this guy might have been throwing a Spro. Yeah. This guy might have been throwing a Sixth Sense. He might have been throwing a Strike King. It's a lot of that's got to do with your preference, and it's a pattern that the fish get on every spring and every fall and just about every lake that there is across the country. And learning what to look for and how to work it back to the boat is a big thing. The main thing is I tell people, how do I learn how to catch a rattletrap fish?
Yeah, you
cover
gotta
water.
throw it. You
cover
gotta throw
water.
it.
If you don't have confidence in it, and this is something that I've done with every bait that I have, swim bait, spinner bait, if there's something that I know people are catching fish on at a certain time of the year, and I don't have confidence in it, and this is hard to do, take 4 or 5 of them, take everything else out of your boat.
Yep, that's how I had to learn to swim bait fish.
Take everything else out of your boat. I learned how to drop shot fish that way because I hate ferry fishing, I call it. But I had some co-anglers whoop my hiney in an Everstart years ago, and
you gotta learn to do it.
You gotta learn how to do it. But take everything out and pick a bait. People don't run all over the lake. It's kind of funny. The first boat deal I ever got years ago, this guy says, "How do you catch all these fish in the spring?" I was like, a lot of times spinner bait or a rattletrap or a crankbait maybe. What bay? I was like, it doesn't matter what bay. And I'm a firm believer in this. You can turn me loose in any bay or the mouth of the bay or on the lake, and within a few 30 minutes to an hour, we'll figure out where the fish are and what they're doing by covering water. They may be on the bars in the mouth of the bay, all the way out to the river channel. Or they're going to be from the river channel to the back of the bay. You just got to figure out where they are that day. And a rattletrap is one of the best things possible because you can cover so much water.
So let me ask you a few more questions. That's great. Someone put the pogo shad. Man, that's a Ron Lappin bait. Brian Mills, you think they'll hit a trap this weekend on Barkley with his cool down? Oh, yeah.
For sure.
You just got to put it in the right place. Now, Sam Lashley, my buddy Sam, he said it's a red-eye shad, not a rattlecrap. So I'm going to ask, that's a good question, Sam. When are you going to throw Mr. Bill Lewis right here? So this is your traditional rattletrap. It doesn't have a crazy fall. It's loud versus something like the old red-eye shad. I'm just going to open this one up. I'll glue it back.
I'll tell you right now, I'm going to have 3 of them on the deck of my boat, and I will have a Strike King, and I will have a Bill Lewis on there. And it's kind of funny because...
So here's your red-eye shad. Let me break these baits down real quick, Matt. So your red-eye shad, it's almost like, if you look at it this way, it's a teardrop pattern bait. It's got a really fat head. It narrows down to a point on the tail, and you can see the shoulders are a little bit wider, where your rattletrap is almost basically oval style, teardropped both ways. It's a very symmetrical bait. It just has that lip. But the way this red eye is, it's got this little bulge down here, and this makes this bait have a really crazy shimmy when it falls versus almost, Rattletrap doesn't fall that fast. It's very soft when it falls versus this right here, which has got a lot of action when it falls. Now go ahead. When are you going to go Rattletrap versus the red eye shad?
In the spring, the fall doesn't really matter to me because I'm throwing that sucker in an inch of water and bringing it out most of the time, or I'm fishing a flat with a couple foot of water in it. And there, a lot of times I'll hit it as soon as it hits the water. I'm going to mix it up day by day. Here's the one. There we go. Oh. If you're fishing a buddy tournament or you're fishing with a co-angler in the back of your boat, but if you're fishing a buddy tournament, have your buddy put on the red eye shad and you throw the 6 cents or whatever and mix the colors up to see what they're hitting that day, and you can figure it out because it literally changes day by day by day, and you have to be able to adjust with the water. Don't just stick. I've been catching them on Rayburn Red. Well, go throw Rayburn Red all day and you'll catch them one out of every 4 or 5 days, and I'm going to have 4 or 5 different colors, and I'm going to figure out which one they're eating that day. And it may be Rayburn Red, or it may be something with chartreuse, maybe chrome and blue. And they may be eating the Strike King better than they are the Rattletrap. Oh, well, you can just ask Kevin. Kevin went the other day, and the boat in front of him was throwing something with the, whether it was a Spro or a red eye shad that's got that different shape. Yeah. You go right behind him throwing the old Bill Lewis and smack him.
Yeah, I caught like 8 behind the sky. You could hear his bait is a one knocker of some sort. He was within 100 yards, but couldn't hit it exactly. But he didn't catch a fish. Someone behind him caught 8 on a root beer trap. And, you know, the one thing, I'm not a big color guy. I do love my chartreuse purple. I'm
a huge color guy.
But for rattle traps and lipless and jerk baits, it 100% absolutely makes a difference.
Mm-hmm. Huge difference.
Sam says it's all about how you work it. Yeah, that's kind of how we've been talking tonight.
Exactly right, Sam. I mean, some days they want it on a burn. Some days they want it on a stop and pop. Some days they want it a little bit slower and yo-yoed. When the people are catching them on the slower or yo-yo days, I'm slow rolling a spinner bait or something like that. If they're not hitting it moving pretty fast, I like to go to something else that I can bring in, maybe a square bill or something like that. Go in. But my favorite time to rattle trap fish is when I can catch them when they're fairly active, on a warm up or just moved off, and you figure out a little pattern on them.
I like to hit it pretty fast too. It usually doesn't last that long for me. But let's say it says when to throw gold chrome versus silver chrome. I would throw gold, and this is why I went fishing with Matt. I don't know if I told the story. It was like 10 years ago. Yeah, now, this was in the fall.
You was in high school.
But I promise you, I hooked one of the biggest smallmouth ever on Kentucky Lake.
It was a nice one.
And I was also using like a glass rod, and that's why it come off.
Yeah, I didn't have a net either. But he was out there with a flimsy rod, and he couldn't do anything with. Another thing that we hadn't gone over yet that I do, and this is something that a lot of people don't understand. I use a lot of little clips, like a little number 1 clip. Show them that, Kevin. So you know,
this is a little Spro clip.
There for a while, Bill Lewis was putting an oval shaped split ring on there. It didn't work as good with them. But that will actually let you tie your traditional knot that you like to tie. But I 100% believe that it gives your bait better action. You can go rattle trap fishing or Spro fishing or 2-tap fishing or whatever, and you can reel your bait in. You can put a snap on there and reel that bait in. And if you have a quality rod and you're not using mono, if you're using braid or if you're using a good fluorocarbon, you can actually feel a difference as you're burning that bait back, and it makes a difference to the fish for sure.
Absolutely.
It gives it a lot more natural action.
How much does line size play with a trap? Do you use just 15 all the way? 15
to 17 if you're beating the bank. If you're fishing on flats, I love to throw one in the back of the bays on flats and on Main Lake on flats. You know, I may go to a 3/4 or to a half. If you're fishing in grass, I'm going to be throwing it on a 50-pound Power Pro braid.
Yeah,
because that way I can rip it through the grass.
I want to talk about some grass. So when you're fishing grass, and I've picked this up through the years, a lot of guys go to stuff like, this is a Jackal TN70, and why this bait is really good in the grass is because it's nose weighted. So when this thing falls, it falls at an angle. If it falls straight down like this, like such as a regular rattle trap, it's a little bit harder to get out of the grass. When it falls nose down and you snatch it straight up, these hooks come away from the grass. When the fish grabs it, gets all hooked. So that's a TN70, and it's really cool. It's got that little metal lip to help it stand. It's very similar to what I would say the LV 500, which the LV is a really loud bait. This one's loud, but you can tell they have different pitches. Somebody asked me to compare the LV 500 to the new 6-cents Quake. So this is a Quake right here, and this is like called cream crawl. This is a sick looking color.
It's a good looking bait.
What's the name of those clips? They're the Twin Lock Snap. Those are on Tackle Freaks when they're under snap swivel split rings. But this is a great looking color. It's got a little bit of blue, a little bit of white, a little bit of orange. I think you would throw this one.
100%. I love that color. I love anything with an orange belly and anything up and down the Tennessee River or the Cumberland River.
But this Quake it's got a lot of weight up toward the nose. It's great for throwing around grass. I've been shipping these to Gunnersville, everywhere. It's a really loud bait. And then there's the Quake Thud, which this is a crazy looking chrome. I've never seen a purple chrome, but we got one. Guy asked round bend or wide gap hooks. Wide gap. Must add triple grips.
That only.
That's a good tip. Brad says he puts suspend stops on the nose, suspend strips for grass. So this is the Thud. It's like you're not quite a one knocker, not quite as loud. It is actually a Thud. This color is called, I believe it's called Electric Reaction versus this right there.
Use trailer hooks.
I don't know who Randy Flowers is. I hope I can meet this guy. I don't know if it's because I want to whip his ass or I just want to laugh. Sorry about that. Sam, I appreciate it. You let me know when you're ready to drive down here to Benton, and we'll do a show with Sam. I don't know. You're catching bigs all the time. I don't know if you got time for me, to be honest. Let's see. What else do we got to show off here, Matt? You know, I could do a whole show comparing rattle traps and stuff. Maybe I just need to do a YouTube video on that, because I'll do a YouTube video comparing all these rattle traps and stuff this week. Maybe Matt will take me out so I can film, but it's getting late. But what have we not hit? Oh, you got to have a good pair of split ring pliers. If you're going to change out split rings, these are the best ever. These are the Texas Tackle. This is the Executive Small. These make it really, really easy. Let's see, what else here? So, again, after this video, I'm going to give away this guy right here. But the good thing is, I've got almost all these rattle traps on TackleFreaks.com. These Quakes are going really, really quick, guys. The regular rattle traps, I just got stocked up with so many colors. Everything's in stock right now. This is a really good one I didn't talk about. Y'all have seen it before. This is a loud son of a gun, man. Listen to this thing. This is the Evergreen. They call it the ZE73. They got
That'd be a good dirty water dude, yeah.
Dude, this would be an awesome dirty water bait. And that sucker is loud. I'm sick. I hope Matt doesn't get sick. That's the ZE73. Man, it's got some sharp hooks and I'm stuck. Any other tips you got, Matt? Matt runs a guide service called All Pro Bass.
Yeah, just give me a call if you want to learn. I do a lot of tournament prep classes. I like doing a lot of stuff with high school kids and young kids, showing them what to do on any conditions. The main thing is with your rattle traps, so many people have a lot of questions when to throw them, when not to throw them.
Dude, you're sliding out. You got to slide over. There you go.
You just got to go throw them.
Ever use a teaser in front of a lipless on a retrieve?
No.
Always good info, helpful. Thanks. I appreciate it. Jeff Deefy needs a trip. I'm going to second that. After Sunday, I think you need to take it.
We might tell him we'll trade a crankbait trip.
Yeah. Do you sell those split ring pliers? Yes, I do, Brad. They're on TackleFreaks.com right now, buddy. That's right, Tanner. I will see you there as well. Before I wrap it up, going to make some notes for next week. Guys, I'll be live next Thursday night at Hartwell, South Carolina. 15 pounds, Sam.
15 to 17. Depends on where you are, honestly. I throw 15 to 17 here in Kentucky and Barkley most of the time. There's certain conditions you can go all the way up to 20 if you're throwing a rattle trap across the top of flooded trees and you're fishing for 10, 12-pound bass, you can go on up. But here, especially on the north end in this area, we do mostly 15 to 17-pound fluoro 90% of the time.
Ken Busey, when's the best time to throw Elvis? Throw Elvis in the summer, or right now while they're throwing A-rigs, just something a little bit different. So I'll be at the Classic next week. And, guys, I'm going to try to go live every night at about 7 o'clock Central Time. Actually, it'll be 7 o'clock Eastern Time, so 6 Central. I'll be live from South Carolina. I'll be doing a lot of trying to get a media pass, behind the stage, interview anglers, stuff like that. I'll also be at the Daiwa booth. I'm going to be hanging out with Tanner Pretty from Angler Hub, Lucky Tackle Box, some other people. It's going to be a great time to be on the Baitman page, and a lot more stuff will be coming to YouTube as well. So it could be a little different next week. Do you ever use a 1/4 ounce in ponds? I do, Sam.
Rarely. I mean, I will, but it's like somebody asked earlier about it. Most of the time, it's about as small as I go is a 1/2 ounce, because I can fish it in 6 inches of water, just hold my rod tip up and burn that sucker. But yeah, I mean, if I'm going to a 1/4 ounce, I'm using a totally different setup, rod and reel and everything. Well, the reel's gonna be the same, but a different rod for sure. Because a 1/4 ounce, you're not slinging very far with that big heavy rod that I'm using.
Now, if you want to come to Kentucky Lake, obviously, if you're from out of town, I recommend hooking up with Matt, All Pro Bass. There's lots of guides out here
Just
that are
message
great.
me on my personal page, Matt Bryan.
Now, if you want to have a fun trip and do something different, Matt is one of the best Tennessee and Cumberland River Smithland pool fishermen in the region, and he knows that like the back of his hand. And matter of fact, if you watch Ben Milliken fishing, his YouTube channel's almost got 100,000 subscribers. Matt took Ben, 2 years ago?
Mm-hmm.
And jacked up some brownfish. So may see Ben come back and fish with me and Matt. But anyways, guys, I'm going to jump off here. My little boy stuck Lego up his nose today and had to go to the ER.
I'm glad it smarts from you, isn't he?
I'm glad he wasn't a swim bait stuck up there. Yeah, he got smarts from me, that's for sure. Guys, looks from his mom though. But I'm going to get off here, guys. I'll upload this to YouTube tomorrow. I'll try to download it tonight, upload it when I get to work. And I've got another YouTube video coming out tomorrow as well, so probably for the weekend. But, guys, I appreciate you joining me. As always, thank my buddy Matt here. He's taught me a lot of what I know about fishing-wise. And we'll see you later. Log on, tacklefreaks.com. God bless.